Women are struggling to sustain oyster farming, a key livelihood in coastal mangroves in Ghana. Programs that train women to restore mangroves or mangroves, which are so crucial to the ecosystem, are no longer running following U.S. aid cuts. Our correspondent Louisa Olaniyi sent us this report.
Each day, Beatrice Nutikpour weaves through the mangroves to harvest oysters for sale. In Ghana's coastal mangroves, oyster farming has been a key source of livelihood, dominated for ages by women. Hundreds of women were trained in eco-friendly farming methods for oysters, including mangrove planting and preservation and selective oyster harvesting to lessen the impact of climate change.
Previously, the oysters attached themselves to the mangroves, but because the mangroves have been cut, now they settle in the water. The oysters have started attaching themselves to the mangroves we have planted. We also harvest the fish that hides in the roots of the mangroves, so the mangroves are very good for us.
Oyster farming involves breeding oysters in a controlled aquatic environment for commercial purposes. Much like the rest of coastal West African nations, Ghana has lost a significant portion of its mangroves to climate change and development. There is no available data on recent depletion, but over 80% of the original mangroves have been lost since the last century. Mangroves are also increasingly threatened by climate change as global temperatures and sea levels rise. A single basin of oysters sells for roughly $4, and Nutikpour sells just enough to feed her family and put her daughters through school. It's a family tradition she's been doing since she was 15. Now, at 45, she is struggling to sustain the practice and pass it to her daughter.
Just as my mother taught me this business, I also want to teach my daughter so that she could also teach her child. Then oyster farming will become our family's business.
The loss of mangroves means farmers like Nutikpour risk their lives free diving 30 feet or deeper for hours in search of oysters that migrate to deeper water in the absence of mangrove roots. The oysters play an ecological role in the estuary.
So they play an ecological role in being there. If we have more oysters in it, any water body, any mangrove area, it's found that the water gets cleaner than before.
As mangroves are depleted by people in search of firewood, development has crept into the coastal areas, and authorities release water from overflowing dams, endangering the forests.
Ghana's female oyster farmers are struggling to sustain their business due to climate change and the loss of critical support. Previously, USAID-funded non-profit training programs equipped these women to mitigate the impact of climate change on oyster harvesting. However, with funding cuts, this support has ended, leaving them to fend for themselves. Oysters, considered exotic and a rare cuisine in Africa, is a prized delicacy in the West, despite being sold locally for just $4 per basin. For these women, it is a struggle to keep an age-long tradition rather than just a source of income. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olaniyi, WION, World is One.